In a time when many questioned the direction of Africa's future, one man rose with a defiant message, not only for his people, but for the entire continent and its diaspora. Africa must reclaim itself. That man is Captain Ibrahim Traore, the transitional president of Burkina Faso, a landlocked country in West Africa that has faced decades of instability, terrorism, and foreign interference. But under Traore's leadership, something unexpected is happening. A renaissance. A movement is growing across Africa and among the African diaspora. It is louder, bolder, and more united than ever before. And at the heart of it, Pan-Africanism reborn. A soldier with a vision. At just 34 years old, Captain Ibrahim Traore became Africa's youngest head of state after a popular coup in 2022. While coups often draw global condemnation, Traore's rise was different. It was not driven by greed, but by a vision of sovereignty. He promised to prioritize Burkina Faso's independence from foreign militaries, from colonial economic systems, and from outside meddling. And more importantly, he promised to lead the country towards unity, not just internally, but with its neighbors and beyond. His message quickly resonated across West Africa, where many countries were grappling with similar challenges: terrorism, political instability, and neo-colonial control, particularly from France and Western financial institutions. We must reclaim our sovereignty. He didn't just talk, he took action. And soon, Burkina Faso was no longer acting alone. The Sahel Alliance. In early 2024, a powerful new bloc emerged, the Alliance of Sahel States, a coalition between Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Each of these countries had undergone leadership change through military coups, each had expelled French forces, and each had been targeted by terrorism. Together, they forged a pact of mutual defense, economic cooperation, and cultural unity. Among the alliance's most ambitious projects, a joint military force to defend against insurgency, plans to abandon the CFA franc, the French-controlled colonial currency still used in many West African countries, and the introduction of a joint biometric passport, which allows seamless travel within member states, a first step toward continental mobility. This was more than diplomacy. It was the seed of a Pan-African vision, independent, determined, and unapologetic. Reclaiming Africa for Africans. But Traore's ambitions extend beyond West Africa. He has called on the African Union to eliminate internal visa requirements between African countries, arguing that colonial-era borders are arbitrary and economically suffocating. In a landmark speech in Ouagadougou, he declared, "These borders were drawn by colonialists. They divide us. It is time for Africa to belong to Africans." That message echoed not just in Africa, but across the African diaspora, from the streets of Dakar and Kinshasa to the communities of Atlanta, Paris, and Kingston. On social media, African youth have dubbed him Africa's Thomas Sankara 2.0, referencing the revolutionary Burkinabe leader of the 1980s who once dreamed of a free, proud Africa. Where Sankara laid the foundation, Traore is building the house. Economic self-reliance. Burkina Faso under Traore is now pursuing economic independence like never before. IMF and World Bank loans? Rejected. Foreign bases? Expelled. Instead, the focus has turned inward to local agriculture, small industries, and infrastructure that links people, markets, and regions. Within just 2 years, GDP growth has increased significantly. Rural communities are seeing investment. Small factories are opening to process cotton, shea, and mangoes, local resources that previously only benefited foreign corporations. And what's more important, these developments are African-funded, African-owned, and community-led. It's a clear message to the world. Africa is no longer content with begging for development. It's building it on its own terms. Cultural awakening. But Traore knows that true unity must also come from the soul of a people. His administration is spearheading a cultural revival, promoting local languages, restoring indigenous education, and celebrating pre-colonial history. French is no longer the only language of government communication. Indigenous dialects such as More, Diola, and Fulfulde are gaining institutional support. This cultural pride is spreading across borders. Musicians, artists, and writers throughout Africa are finding renewed purpose in Afrocentric narratives. And for the diaspora, Traore's leadership has become a symbol of what is possible when Africa leads itself, tensions with the West. Of course, Not everyone is celebrating. Traore's anti-imperialist stance has angered some Western powers. Burkina Faso's expulsion of French troops was met with international criticism. Sanctions were threatened, funding was cut. But rather than backtrack, Traore doubled down, finding new partnerships in the global south, strengthening ties with Russia, Turkey, and China, and turning inward to build resilience. While this shift has raised eyebrows, many Africans see it as a correction, a step away from dependency and towards a multipolar world where Africa can assert its interests on equal footing. This is not isolation, it's liberation. The diaspora responds. The African diaspora is watching and responding. Across the Caribbean, in Latin America, in Europe, and North America, people of African descent are engaging in the Pan-African conversation with renewed vigor. Diaspora communities are organizing discussions around Traore's speeches. Activists are drawing parallels between his policies and the legacies of leaders like Marcus Garvey, Patrice Lumumba, and Kwame Nkrumah. From New York to Nairobi, a new slogan is spreading: Africa for Africans, at home and abroad. Challenges ahead. But let's not pretend it's all easy. Burkina Faso continues to face terrorist threats, internal displacement, and economic hardship. Not everyone agrees with the methods of the military-led government, and some critics warn of the risks of authoritarianism. But even critics concede something significant is happening. Ibrahim Traore has rekindled a flame, one that inspires millions to rethink Africa's future, not as a continent begging for aid, but as a rising force on the global stage. Africa has known too many false dawns, but this time it feels different. This time there's movement, not just in boardrooms, but in the streets, in the villages, in the diaspora, and in the hearts of Africans everywhere. And at the center of it stands a young captain, soft-spoken, firm in resolve, and bold in vision. His name is Ibrahim Traore. Uplifting African drums, this is not just about one man. It's about an idea that Africa can unite, that it can rise, and that its people, wherever they may be, can finally walk together in pride, in freedom, and in power.